Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Brandon. Welcome back to Marotta Media. As I've said a million times before, I apologize for my extended leave of absence. It's been a busy few weeks, and honestly, a lot of the movies that I've seen recently that came out this year just haven't been worthy of a full review to me. But that all changes today, because today I'm going to review a movie that I never thought that I would review, and that was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is a horror slasher film that uses the likeness of the beloved characters created by A.A. Milne. And the gist of this movie is that Christopher Robin meets the animals of the 100-Acre Wood, and then as the years go by, he leaves to go to college. And once he leaves, the animals become feral and murderous, including Pooh and Piglet, who kill and eat all of the other animals. And when 5 girls are vacationing in a cabin nearby, they are met with Pooh and Piglet, who are trying to kill them. So some of you may be wondering how a movie like this is even possible, because these characters are copyrighted, right? Well, that's where you're wrong. A while ago, I want to say at the beginning of 2022 or 2021, the characters from Winnie the Pooh became public domain. So anybody could use these characters for anything without any legal repercussions. And that's how we got this gem of a movie turning these beloved characters into murderous psychopaths. Now, when I first heard about this movie, I thought to myself, that is going to be absolutely horrendous. And then the trailer came out, and after I watched it, I said the same thing. This looks so unbelievably terrible, but I have to watch it. So I went into this movie knowing that it was going to be absolutely awful. But at the very least, what I was hoping for was just some good old dumb entertainment. But evidently, that's asking too much, because Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is an awful movie, as I suspected, but this movie is not fun in any way, and it's rather extremely boring, so let's get into it. And let's get into the main issue that I have with this movie, and that's the story, if you can even call it that. Because right off the bat, I noticed some pretty glaring plot holes in this thing. As I mentioned, Christopher Robin met these animals when he was young, and he took care of them and fed them. But then as soon as he leaves to go to college, these animals are absolutely helpless. So you're telling me that they couldn't feed or take care of themselves after he left? Which makes me question, what did they do before he even got there? And I guess in this movie's case, going feral means that you grow a few feet and have the build of a human being, but we'll get more into that in a bit. But right at the beginning, Christopher Robin returns with his now wife, and he's like, I want you to meet all of these friends that I made when I was a kid. They're gonna be so excited to meet you. And then as soon as they get there, it's immediately clear that something is wrong. So instead of doing the logical thing and getting the fuck out of there, they decide to stay despite Christopher Robin's wife's pleas for them to leave. And then when they're discovered, Pooh and Piglet murder Christopher Robin's wife and then kidnap him because they recognize him. And then after that, these 5 girls come into the picture because they're vacationing in a cabin that's near them. And these 5 girls are some of the worst written characters that I have ever seen. And the reason I know that they're terribly written is because I legitimately cannot tell you any of their names. Seriously, I can't remember. I don't even remember if they mentioned it in the movie. But there's a subplot involving one of these girls who has a stalker. And this stalker was following her for a while, and then there's a scene that appears to be a flashback of some kind where this stalker comes into her bedroom and just sits beside her bed. And so this has traumatized her, and she's been going to therapy for it. And as a result, her therapist tells her that she needs to get away for a few days, hence why they're in this cabin. But I want to know what the purpose of this subplot was, because it was completely useless. It has absolutely no bearing on the overall narrative. Again, if you can even call it that. If anything, this just came off as some really half-assed attempt at having some sort of characterization for these girls. But that's just a testament for this movie as a whole. Everything is either completely half-assed or horribly executed. Starting with the acting, because dude, let me tell you, this movie has some of the worst acting that I have ever seen. I know a lot of people have said what I'm about to say as a joke just for the sake of hyperbole to showcase how truly terrible the acting was, but this is porno level acting. There is not a single good performance in this entire movie. Every single performance is absolutely abysmal. These actors have absolutely no idea how to convey any kind of emotion, and when they actually attempt to, it's laughably bad. And there were even times where the score completely overpowered the dialogue as characters were speaking, and normally that would bother me, but I found these characters so loathsome and annoying that I considered it to be kind of a saving grace in this case. And it's not just the acting that's amateurish, because this movie looks like it was shot by a person who has never operated a camera in their life. The DP clearly has no understanding of what framing is. There's a ridiculous overabundance of Dutch angles and shaky cam, and the shaky cam takes the word shaky to a whole new level, because when a character is running from either Pooh or Piglet, the camera moves so much it's impossible to tell what is happening. It honestly looks like the camera is being operated by someone who is actively having a seizure and then the director just told them to run. But I guess I gotta cut the DP a little bit of slack because it doesn't really make his job any easier when the lighting in this movie is as bad as it is. There are so many scenes that take place in the woods, but the lighting is so awful that it looks like you're staring at a black screen. There are scenes that are so dark it is impossible to tell if there is anything even happening on screen. And if there was, I couldn't tell you. Characters themselves are also poorly lit because there were several moments where their outline was lit, but their face was completely shrouded in darkness. Did anybody teach these people what a fill light is? Because let me tell you people, lighting really is not that difficult, but the people who made this movie made it look like the most daunting task ever. But as a result of the lighting and the camera work being so bad, it makes it a little bit difficult to find the antagonist threatening, because there's truly no mystery to the characters of Pooh or Piglet, and a way to convey that mystery is through the camera work as well as the lighting. But besides being poorly lit, the costumes that these guys are wearing are so unbelievably cheap looking. At no point did I ever feel like Pooh or Piglet were two feral anthropomorphic animals. They just look like two large middle-aged dudes who went to Spirit Halloween and picked out the cheapest looking masks that they could find. And when you're trying to sell the illusion that these are living, breathing animals, it would help if they could emote through their face, but they can't do that. They literally just sit there with one blank expression throughout the entire movie. I felt like I was watching The Lion King from 2019 again. But the movie at least attempts to try to help them emote in moments, but these moments look so horrible because you could tell that their faces are just distorted in post. Now, even though I said Pooh and Piglet are the least threatening killers ever, I will give them one thing. These two are two of the most sadistic motherfuckers that I have ever seen in any slasher movie, because they really love to scare their victims and make them suffer. And you would think both of them taking their time in murdering their victims would make them a little bit more scary, but it doesn't. It makes them more boring, honestly. Now let me explain my point by painting a few pictures for you. There are two scenes in particular where the two of them are preparing to kill one of their victims, but the two scenes that I'm going to explain to you are two of the most long-winded and boring scenes that try to build tension as much as possible and completely fail. So one of these girls is outside in the hot tub by herself, and we sit there for, I'm not even exaggerating, maybe a minute or two watching her take selfies. before she inevitably deletes them because we all know that she'll probably say she looks like garbage despite looking fucking stunning. But I digress. She sees Pooh in the background of one of the pictures, and then she gets out of the hot tub to investigate, yells a little bit to try to scare them, and then goes back into the hot tub, and she starts looking at her phone some more. Pooh and Piglet sneak up behind her and then take her hostage. We then fade to black, and we see that this girl has awoken and she is hogtied. And Pooh is in this car, and he continues to rev the engine. And during all of this, the girl who's hogtied is screaming her lungs out. And this scene just drags on because as this girl continues to scream, Pooh just continues to rev the engine to scare her. And he and Piglet just keep looking back and forth at each other. And I'm just sitting there waiting for something to happen because this has gone on long enough. So finally, after making the audience wait for God knows how long, Pooh grows a pair and runs over this girl's head. Well, let me rephrase that. He doesn't really run over it. He crushes her head with one of the tires. And this girl's head pops like Oberyn Martell from Game of Thrones. But the CGI that is used on her blood and to make it look like her eye is popping out of her socket before her head inevitably explodes is the worst, cheapest looking CGI I've ever seen. And like I said, there are 2 scenes that are like this, so this isn't even the only moment that is remotely close to being that bad. There is a chase scene in a pool that has to be like 5 feet deep. And this scene plays out by one girl being in the pool and Piglet being outside of it. And Piglet stands there and he tries to lasso this girl with a chain. And finally, after numerous attempts, he realizes, oh shit, this isn't working, and he gets in the pool. And like I said, guys, this pool has to be at the very least 5 feet deep. So both of these characters, especially Piglet, since he's just a large man in a costume, have most of their upper body above the water. And I'm not kidding you, Piglet chases after this girl in this pool very slowly with a sledgehammer. And when the girl finally reaches the end of the pool, she looks around as if she has nowhere to go, and Piglet just whacks her in the head. It is so unbelievably stupid. I've seen boneheaded decisions in horror movies before, but that moment just took it to a whole nother level. And I know there's not going to be an answer for this, but fuck it, I'm just gonna ask it anyway. Why the fuck didn't she just get out of the pool? And this movie is so unbelievably tame when it came to its violence. Besides a few moments here and there, most of the brutal deaths that you see happen off screen or they're obscured by something in the way. Because there's another scene toward the beginning where Pooh is stalking a 6th girl who was supposed to meet the 5 other girls there. But I'm also just realizing at no point did they ever question where this 6th girl was and why she never arrived to the cabin. I guess they just weren't very close, or they didn't give a shit. I don't know. Maybe this girl fucked one of their boyfriends. I really don't know. But yeah, they never ever question where she is. But this scene is fairly brutal because of the way it goes down, but it also contains one of the most unnecessary moments of nudity that I've ever witnessed. Pooh is chasing after this girl, and when he finally finds her, she gets all scared and tries to move away from him. And I'm not kidding you, he takes off this girl's shirt and she's completely topless. Her boobs are just out and everything. And I said to myself, what was the point of that? Why did he take off her shirt? Is the movie just trying to appeal to its prepubescent teenage audience by having nudity in it at one point? But Pooh ends up catching her and then just throws her into a wood chipper, and then that's the last time any of that is ever mentioned. But what truly amazes me is how everything in this movie is so poorly done, because Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey has absolutely nothing good about it. Nothing. And believe me, I looked. The only thing about this movie that I can say was somewhat enjoyable is the fact that there are several moments where Pooh karate chops people's limbs off. So that was somewhat entertaining, and I give the movie props for not taking itself too seriously. But other than that, there is nothing, absolutely nothing redeeming about this. Like I said, I knew this movie was going to suck, but at the very least, I was hoping that it would be fun. But it wasn't fun. It was boring. This movie is only an hour and 40 minutes long, but it felt so dragged out that the runtime felt more like 3 hours. Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey is truly one of the most horrendous pieces of shit that I have ever had the displeasure of watching. I have seen high school student projects that look more professional than this. But I guess I really don't have anyone to blame but myself, because at the end of the day, I'm the guy who chose to see this movie voluntarily and paid for a ticket voluntarily. So for those who didn't want to see this movie but wanted to know how it was, then here you go. I consider this an act of service to you. I put myself through hell for your guys' entertainment. But if you were interested in seeing this movie and you loved Winnie the Pooh growing up and you're possibly worried that your childhood would be ruined, then don't feel that way, because at no point did I ever think that this felt like Winnie the Pooh. Seriously, this movie could have been just about the most random killer in the world and it would have been exactly the same. But the fact that they have a yellow bear and pig masks on makes it a Pooh movie, I guess. I really want to know what the hell these filmmakers were thinking, because they have no clue what they're doing.
But your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
But I'll just end this again by saying this movie is absolutely terrible, and if you are interested in seeing it, then I strongly encourage you not to waste your time. If this is not the worst movie that I watched this year, then the future of film is in deep, deep trouble. But Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey was so bad that just for the second time in the history of my YouTube channel, I will be giving a movie a 0 out of 10. There is nothing redeeming about this movie at all. It is awful. Save your money. Don't waste your time. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my review of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. If you guys saw this movie, first of all, I sincerely apologize, but what did you think of it if you did see it? Did you hate it? Because I refuse to believe that there is anybody in the world that thought this movie was good. If you guys like this review, be sure to hit that thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe. If you want to see my previous reviews, I will link those right over here. Other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.